What's up people, my name's Anton and welcome to September. Today I'm going to be quickly going through how you can go about setting emission textures in Octane and essentially mapping textures to light, not just still textures but specifically animated ones in this case. I remember when I was first figuring this out, because I wanted to learn how to do it, there were loads of little glitches and technical yes no's that you had to press, and I got a little confused because I felt like tutorials didn't do enough. So today I'm showing you the right way of going about it in Octane. What you can see on the screen right now is the texture we're going to use, and if we just hop into C4D real quick, you can see this little project I've been working on, and this is where we're going to go out mapping the texture. So it's like this sort of tube type scene, and if I just activate these lights here, you can sort of see we've got this pillar with one of them sort of modern electronic type displays in the middle, and we're going to map the texture on top of that. So what we're working with for texture is literally a Octane diffuse with one emission node plugged in. This activates the power, so you can see if we turn this off or turn this up, we've got a little bit of, and this is what a little bit of control, sorry, and this is what reflects off the environment. So we turn every light off, you can see that we've got a nice little bit of blue light there, tweaked up. We can make this warmer, which adds a little bit of detail to the environmental reflections. So we head back to our reference. This is what we're going to use. I figured the shape, and it saves me making some motion design. We can go about saving this image. If you save that as a GIF, we'll save it as my Dropbox folder for now. Locate this and just head into After Effects real quick. This will allow us to save it as a EXR sequence, I believe, which is what we need to use to import into Octane. Try and import your footage that you've either made or saved. So for me, I think it's a GIF file at the minute, which I can hold over and import, and then just create a new comp from selection, which is gonna give me my animation. Luckily, it's pretty easy for me. I can just play through, make sure that it's working all right. Ideally, if you're trying to fit this into a composition, you want to take a look at the little number down here and see how many frames you're working with. So for me, I'm working with about 139, which is cool, but you want to correlate that with the FPS of your C4D scene. So if we head here to project, we can see we're working with 30 FPS there, and you want to make this whatever this number was. So for me, it's about 139. I can just turn that up right there, and just make sure here I'm also working with 30 FPS. Just make sure everything is correlated. We can head to composition settings here. This is with 33.333, so we just make that 30, and everything should be a-okay. The resolution is a little lower than I'd like here, so what I can do is just go about multiplying this by 2. You don't need the shape to be exact, obviously you can if you're a perfectionist, but for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to hope that it scales in UVs to size there. We're going to lock the aspect ratio real quick, just double this to about 800. Click OK, and just do Control Alt F on this layer, and it will double it up. What we can then go about doing is just adding, maybe making an adjustment layer, and just adding some noise just to really give that detail. And what you can see that would do is, if we just use color noise and set this to about 10%, we'll take it from the low resolution pixelated look to having a little bit of realism to it. It does make it look a little gify, so at that point we can sort of maybe turn it down to about 5 or so, but all in all it looks pretty good and it should fit nicely in our scene. It may even be worth turning this up just slightly more, maybe to 1200, and just click Control Alt F one more time and scale up the noise. Potentially turn the noise up a little bit, because the noise will be 2 resolution, so then you can make good of your animation. So what you want to do from this point, just make sure you're happy with what you've got, and then hit File, Export, add to Render Queue, and make sure your settings here are EXR sequence. Audio output is not necessary. You can sort of, I think you can leave this at RGB. Your settings are pretty much okay from this point, and you can go about saving this wherever you'd like. So if I just head to desktop 2022 and then to my dump folder, September, we can have screen texture. You can leave this the way you want, but for me, I'm just going to call this screen display disport. Where you see the hashtags there, that's going to be the numbers of the EXR sequence. So you can literally save that and hit render. It says output color depth exceeds project color depth. That's not an issue. That's just talking about the bits of the channel. And you can see that fairly quickly, depending on how many frames you're working with, it should just render out. So we can wait for this to finish, and then while we're doing that, we can hop back into C4D and get our texture prepared. So what we can do from this point is, when we get the green light from here, we'll just finish it up. see if we might slow that up a little bit. Get our favourite sound, and we can head back over to our Octane diffuse, go into the node editor, and make our image sequence, image texture even. So you can choose your head to wherever you saved it. So for me it was here, screen texture. You want to select the first one, and remember how many frames you're working with. So for me it's 126, right? You open the first one. You make sure you're setting this to aces like normal, and then animation. You want to, incorrect. What you want to do is actually, when you import your image texture, head over here, and this is important. This is important for making sure your animation plays right in the scene. You want to hit the first one, you want to click open. Hold on. Normally it comes with a little tab asking if you want to import it into the project path, and I'll make a little text folder, whatever C4D folder you're working through. If that comes up, you need to click no. You need to click no, so it's using the native path wherever it was saved. That's important because that was what messed me up before. And then if all goes to plan here, you should be able to set your frame rate to 30 like we spoke about. Set this to 126. Mode either loop or exact frame, probably exact frame works, and at that point you can plug this into your texture, and you should, if we turn the power down, maybe we need to work on the processing a little bit here, just to turn this off for now. You can see we've got our texture, so what we need to do is firstly turn this down a little bit. It's a little too saturated. Maybe we can make this from about 5 is about hitting the sweet spot, maybe 2. Service brightness, tweak with the settings a little bit so you're getting what you want. And you should potentially. It's looking a little bright on the brighter side, but that may be a case of it's a bit of a warmer display. So maybe you can do it like this. You can hit to that, maybe turn it up a tiny bit more. Tweak however you like. We can see that it's not exactly on par here. So what we can do is a few things. We can get a few things to tweak here. We can go to UV transform. We can set about scaling this so that it fits a bit nicer. So I think we're working with something like this initially. We want that human story bit to be centered. So what we can do is we can play with the position here. I believe it might be that's the rotation. Something about this. Something just like that. We can tweak it like so. Head back to your reference, make sure it's looking pretty similar. You can scale it up a tiny bit more, maybe one more little nudge to the right. Oh, too much. And then we can go back positioning just like that. I'd say I'm pretty happy. At this point, something that we can do just to make sure the colour is nailed is get a little colour correction node and chuck that in just before you get here. And all that will do is be able to manipulate it to this point. So we need to make sure it's set to aces. That is likely the reason. always happens. And then we can go back to making our power again. So move that down to about 100. Maybe we want to have our temperature a little brighter. Obviously, the colder that will be. We're working with a cold screen, but you don't want it to affect the colour too much. So we can just something like this. So really working with the colour nicely. You can go about saturating it up or desaturating it, whatever works. For me, I think it may work to desaturate it a little bit. You can work with the brightness. But ultimately, you want to get a look what you're happy with. And then at this point, we can scroll through our timeline just to make sure that the animation is working, which it is. And what will happen is that light will reflect and interact with your environment just how you want it to. Personally, I'd like this if this was a little brighter. I really would want it to be about 200, maybe 100. But the camera's a little high, but with tweaking that, we can have a little look about and see what colours are they supposed to be. I believe they might be supposed to be. See, we're losing a little bit of colour here, which is important. So we can sweep this down a little bit. Maybe it's about 20, 50. Surface brightness, I feel like should probably come off. This is the sort of colour that we want, but it's not quite the brightness on the environment. So we might have to work with some light in here to get the effect that we really want. But if we're doing a little bit of scene composition, however it might be, you can tweak this as you like within your scene. But the principle is essentially there. So even if we turn all these on, you can see that we're getting our nice animated display there. And that is essentially how you go about manipulating displays and light and screens inside of Octane. You can do a lot with this, really. You can time this up and down, you can play with the display, you can obviously change the colour so that it reflects differently to your scene. You can do a variety of things. It's a pretty useful technique to have under your belt. So having said that, thank you for watching. This is a quick tips, and I'll see you in the next episode.